I've been wondering lately if snipers are going to dominate Warzone 2. And this is a really interesting and important question that we need to get to the bottom of. Because we know now from the horizontal and visual recoil that assault rifles are kind of on the out. They're not going to be super effective over range, and it looks like light machine guns will end up playing more of an important role over long-range engagements. But light machine guns are big and clunky and take a long time to aim and a long time to shoot. So surely sniper rifles could be the answer. They could dominate Warzone 2's long-range meta, and they could be long-range kings. But there are loads of questions like, which sniper should I use? Will marksman rifles be better than sniper rifles like we saw in the early days of Warzone 1? What distances will these weapons be effective at? And how will all of this work in Warzone 2? These are all really big questions, and the answers to them are important because for you guys, if you've got limited time and you want to level up a rifle, it's important that you know which one will perform the best. So I decided to painstakingly answer all of these questions, and the results are actually really surprising and really shocking. Especially when you start to look at the higher caliber sniper rifles and how marksman rifles even work in this game. To do all of this took a lot of effort, so please consider subscribing and liking this video. It really supports the page, and I'm super close to 100k, and if you want more useful information like this will be the place to be. I loaded myself and a remote desktop version of my console into private lobbies in Modern Warfare 2, and tested all of the sniper rifles and all of the marksman rifles over lots of different health levels and lots of different ranges. And I primarily focused on 250 HP and 200 HP. Now when Warzone 1 originally launched, it was 100 health plus 50 for each plate. And with 3 plates, that meant that the average was of course 250 health. But I also tested 200 and 150 and 300 just to be sure, and just to see how the behaviors of these weapons would change. And the answers were really interesting. Now naturally, this video presumes that Warzone 2 is going to use the base values from Modern Warfare 2. And as we've seen with Warzone 1, that was exactly the case with Modern Warfare 2019. They simply took the weapon values, copied them over, and later on did they start tweaking and changing things like editing damage ranges, changing how certain weapons would interact and behave. But from the very beginning, the statistics were identical. And we're presuming at the moment that 250 is going to be the value, even though we tested it over multiple different health levels. So this data should genuinely be valid and should actually be useful. Now, to give you a quick fire answer for some of you who are worried about which sniper rifle you should be focusing on and which one you should level up, the answer might surprise you, but it's the MCPR 300. Now, throughout all of my testing at 300 HP all the way down to 150 HP, the only sniper that seemingly consistently one-shot headshotted over multiple different types of range and health levels was the MCPR. Which is surprising given that the Signal 50 is a higher caliber sniper, and even more surprising considering some of the other snipers share the same bullet caliber and theoretically should share the same damage model. So if you're looking for a quick answer, the MCPR is the way to go. But if you want to know the devil in the details and how things get very complex and why marksman rifles are deeply concerning, stick around and drop a like as well. Now, using my crash test dummy, we started at 250 HP. And what I found is that the higher caliber snipers like the Signal 50, the LAB 330, the SPX, but not the SPR, seemingly shared very similar damage models of how they worked. Now, really this was quite surprising, but at 100 meters it is a 2-shot required for all of these snipers, and you could not one-shot headshot at either 60, 80, or 100 meters. And in fact, seemingly in my testing, at any given range, you could not one-shot headshot with these sniper rifles at all. It always required either a single headshot and a body shot, 2 body shots, or a limb shot and a body shot to make this happen. Now, when you're looking at the marksman rifles, the SAB-50 required 3 shots to kill at 0 to 100 meters, and also did not possess a one-shot headshot. The same also applied to the SPR. So marksman rifles already distinctly have an entirely separate damage model from their sniper rifle counterparts, even when at extremely close ranges. The only sniper rifle that one-shot headshotted from 150 meters to 0 meters was the MCPR. And this is interesting because 250 is theoretically the health and armor plate value that we'll be heading into Warzone 2 with. And this means that marksman rifles are seemingly quite redundant at this level, and sniper rifles, except for the MCPR, seem to work very similarly. Now, naturally, the MCPR would be your first choice pick here, and the Signal 50 would likely be your second. And the reason being, of course, is that the Signal 50 is a semi-automatic, which doesn't require rechambering. I decided to scale the health down to 200, and the reason for this was that even at 250, it just didn't seem to make much sense to me that the SPX, the LAB 330, and the Signal 50 didn't one-shot headshot at 250. Now, it could be that that is very well the intended case, and that could actually be what happens in Warzone 2, but it seemed odd that the MCPR was the only one that one-shot headshotted at this health value, so I decided to try 200 HP. Now, sure enough, the MCPR was still a one-shot headshot at any given range from 0 to 150 meters, but the other snipers also started to come into their own here. The Signal, the SPX, the LAB 330, all were one-shot headshotting at 80, 100, 125, and even 150 meters, meaning that at 200 HP, these were perfectly capable one-shot kill machines. Now this is slightly more interesting, because in Warzone 2, you actually can't equip a third plate immediately. You start off with only 2 plate slots, and you have to equip items in the game in order to acquire that third plate. And this implies that theoretically, and this is of course theoretical, that you would need to have a 200 HP system in order for the majority of sniper rifles to actually be useful. Again, only the MCPR one-shot headshotted at 250 meters. Now, when we're talking about the marksman rifles, primarily the SAB-50 and the SPR, these did not one-shot headshot at any range, and in fact required either 2 body shots, 1 headshot and 1 body shot, or 3 limb shots in order to make a kill happen. Meaning that once again, the marksman rifles, despite being really quick and really snappy, were nowhere near their sniper rifle counterparts. And in all cases and examples here, at 200 HP, snipers were greatly superior to marksman rifles. Now this data is actually really interesting, again because of the fact that you only start with 2 armor plates in Warzone 2, implying 200 HP would be the default value and 250 would be the buffed value once you did some looting. And again, it seems interesting that the MCPR is the only standout that seems to one-shot at any given range. Of course, snipers do seem to start all one-shotting at 200 HP, but the MCPR was doing it at 250 and 300, which was what was super curious to me. So I decided to move down to 150 HP, and the reason for this is that I just wanted to understand how the marksman rifles were working, because it seems to me that even at 200 and 250 HP, which are likely the values we'll see in Warzone 2, these things were basically useless. None of them could one-shot headshot anybody, and it regularly took 2 quick succession shots to down an opponent, and that just doesn't seem very good. And this value is even lower if you factor in limb shots, which traditionally have a lower damage model. Now, what was interesting at 150 HP is that the SAB-50 and the SPR share entirely separate damage models. The SPR was not capable of one-shot headshotting at 80, 78, 77, and 76 meters, and only at 75 meters was the SPR capable of a one-shot headshot at 150 HP. Now, when you compare that to the SAB-50, this is where things get interesting, because the SAB-50 is only capable of a one-shot headshot at distances of 39 meters and under, which naturally is not very far at all. This is effectively a completely useless damage range. So the SPR works at 75 meters and below, but the SAB-50 is only 39 meters and below. Naturally, at 150 HP, every single one of the sniper rifles was one-shot headshotting at pretty much any given range. But this is really interesting because it shows already that marksman rifles have extremely different damage models, not only to their sniper rifle counterparts, but also to each other. Now, theoretically, the SAB-50 is a faster firing, faster rechambering variant of the SPR, which may go to show why it has such a drastically different damage range. But what does this mean? Well, ultimately, you should be leveling up the MCPR and focusing your efforts on those sniper rifles. Primarily, the MCPR I think is going to be the go-to, with the Signal 50 being a close second. But the marksman rifles, well honestly, they seem a little bit useless. It requires effectively at 250 HP, 3 shots to kill, or a headshot and a body shot, and 200 HP is a very similar story. So it means although these marksman rifles will be quick and will be damaging, it's going to require multiple rounds from these things to down an opponent. When in comparison's sake, the MCPR isn't that much slower than the SPR or the SAB-50, it's definitely not as rapid, but it kind of means that much like in Warzone 1 in the later stages, marksman rifles are being relegated to a short-range option as opposed to a long-range option. They're going to effectively be a kind of short to medium alternative to a slower and heavier and longer ADS sniper rifle. But in the end, I think most people are just going to choose the MCPR because it's not that slow a rifle and it does one-shot headshot at seemingly any given range with any given health value. So the TLDR of this video is that marksman rifles are looking a bit bad, and the MCPR is the gun you want at any given day. Now, if you found this video helpful or useful, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, and of course support the channel. We're really close to 100k subscribers, and thank you for helping me with all this testing. If you found it useful, drop a comment below, and I'll catch you again in the next video.